Over the past 5 years, the fulfilment industry has changed more than it has in the past 20 years. Parcels and pallets could move across the entirety of the EU with no friction. When they were in Dover about to cross the channel, the tracking itself fell off the face of the planet. Government agencies are now finally starting to shout about the benefits of this dual market access that Northern Ireland now has. We don't go down the line of the traditional charging per pallet space model. When they moved in, we saved them 4 figures a week. What I want to achieve by 2030 is the ability to move a parcel across the entirety of the UK and Ireland carbon neutral. How can we make it come true? I'm SJ Henderson, the CEO of SJ Henderson Fulfilment. We're a third-party logistics provider based in Northern Ireland in a small town called Kilkeel. We provide all of the operations for over 70 businesses now. We pick, pack and dispatch their parcels and their pallets across the world and assist them in growing their business. Over the past 5 years, the fulfilment industry has changed more than it has in the past 20 years. Throw in Brexit, the introduction of AI in business, automation, US tariff changes, sustainability, and you have quite a mixture of pressures and demands on so many business industries now. What we do here at SJ Henderson Fulfilment is assist companies in excelling in their marketplace and actually leading change and leading in their sectors so they can stay ahead of the competition. The businesses who have chosen not to adapt in the past 5 years are being left behind. What we want to talk about is those subjects: Brexit, how we can assist you in actually strategically moving your parcels and pallets across the entirety of Europe from one spot with no duties and taxes. We want to talk about sustainability in the modern world and in the modern business and how to actually lead in that field. AI and automation, what that means for logistics, and how we actually navigate and advise our clients on staying ahead of custom changes like what we have seen in America with the removal of the de minimis aid, leaving many businesses in difficult positions. We have solutions and we're here to help businesses grow and give them the freedom to grow. Before Brexit, parcels and pallets could move across the entirety of the EU with no friction, no duties, with the UK included obviously in that. They were part of the 28 EU member states. Post-Brexit, when it was announced in 2016, there actually wasn't much change. There was a lot of uncertainty, but until we got to the 31st of December in 2020, that was whenever the transition period ended. What that meant for businesses in the UK was that they couldn't actually send parcels and pallets into the EU anymore without duties or taxes to be paid on those. And actually at that moment in time, Northern Ireland was included in that because the infrastructure wasn't in place ready for businesses to avail of. I myself found myself in the middle of that situation. In December of 2020, we dispatched van loads of product to go into Europe. Obviously that was right and true, and it should have actually took place and moved without any friction or duties and taxes. But actually what happened was at the end of December, when they were in Dover about to cross the channel, they didn't move. The tracking itself fell off the face of the planet. There was no further movements online of those parcels, and we had a lot of clients really confused and stressed out about where their parcels were. So many businesses found themselves in that position whereby the goods were stopped at the border, no longer allowed into Europe. And over the course of the next number of months, it took many months for those parcels to make their way back here. Some were lost in transit. We had to work with the clients to actually get refunds from couriers and navigate that new process. The Northern Ireland Protocol, now Windsor Framework, has created a massive opportunity for businesses across the entirety of the UK to access the EU yet again. Like it was before Brexit, we have unrestricted access here in Northern Ireland to the rest of the EU. Essentially, we're part of the EU single market for goods and also the United Kingdom. Many businesses now come to us to use us as a one-stop shop, for lack of a better phrase, to base their goods here in one fulfilment centre and access all of the UK, all of the EU, no duties or taxes to be paid on the export. There are a few things you need to obtain to avail of that benefit. You have to have a UK VAT number, you have to have a GB and XI EORI number, you have to have an XI VAT number as well if you seek to enter the EU with your product. Once you have those credentials, you're ready to start to do business with us, import the goods to our premises here in Northern Ireland, and you have access to the entirety of Europe and the UK like it was before Brexit. Not many businesses know about this. We're still getting phone calls today asking myself to explain this to businesses from the scratch. Businesses still don't know of these benefits. We're trying to shout as loudly as we can about it. Agencies, government agencies are now finally starting to shout about the benefits of this dual market access that Northern Ireland now has as a country, as a whole. And we're really excited to talk about Northern Ireland as the Hong Kong of Europe. In this current day and age, there's so much opportunity for businesses to really get ahead of their competition. A lot of people, for whatever reason they may have decided just to stop exporting to Europe. Some of them have actually decided to pay the duties and taxes, obviously hitting their bottom line. Also, the EU have had a €150 de minimis allowance for parcels moving into Europe from GB. And recently, they've actually announced that in 2026 to 2028, they're going to slowly remove that, meaning absolutely everything moving to Europe from GB there'll be duties applied to those parcels. Move those parcels in Northern Ireland, there'll be no duties going into Europe. So it's so important now for great British businesses to make themselves aware of this and actually start to strategically make decisions against that. Opening up a Northern Ireland fulfilment centre or an EU fulfilment centre to make sure that they do stay ahead of their competition. A client of ours who joined us 2 years ago now, before they started with us, they had a GB fulfilment centre and also an EU fulfilment centre. And that was how they decided they were going to continue to access the European clientele and the customers and marketplaces and still service GB. With that, obviously, they had to have 2 stock holdings and they had a significant amount of inventory in both warehouses to make sure they service both marketplaces. Obviously, they couldn't actually move inventory between the 2 warehouses because of the duty situation. So it meant that company and that client of ours had to tie up a lot of cash in inventory that was just sitting there awaiting customers to purchase. Whenever they came to SJ Henderson Fulfilment and they realised the benefit we bring in that, well, they can actually close both of those sites down, start working with us, move all their inventory here. It was a light bulb moment for them. They realised how much money they could save, how much cash they could free up and simplify their operations by using a 3PL in Northern Ireland. So they bit the bullet, they made the move. It was a big move. They had to move truckloads of goods from the Netherlands and then from London over here to Northern Ireland. And when they done that, they sold through their excess inventory, released a lot of cash. And not only that, they were able to service the entirety of the UK and the Europe from one site. That client's still here, and year on year, they've been growing in and around 25 to 30% on their revenue that they were doing the year before. So it's been a fantastic growth journey for that client. We've simplified their operations, we've enabled access to the entirety of the EU from one site, and we've really leaned up their operations as such. So it's been an incredible journey for that client, and that's one client story, one client journey out of 69 others that we have here within SJ Henderson Fulfilment. All of our clients have come to us with a need and we've been able to provide a solution for them. We not only provide solutions from a movement of goods point of view, but when the clients actually come here, we provide a lot of cost savings as well. We don't go down the line of the traditional charging per pallet space model, which most 3PLs do in the traditional format. What happens there usually is people are charged, let's say £2 a pallet space, and that sounds really cheap, but a lot of 3PLs actually then put single SKUs onto a single pallet. There could only be a handful of boxes on that pallet, and they do that to make life a lot easier for them picking and packing, which makes absolute sense. But what doesn't make sense is that the client is in charge as if that's a full pallet, because it's a per pallet price. And so a lot of time whenever we're sending out pricing proposals, our pricing sounds very different. It looks very different because we charge per cubic meter per week. And that sometimes is difficult for customers and clients to get their heads around. But essentially, if you imagine a mug that has a cubic meter measurement, albeit very, very small, it could be 0.001, for example, but that's multiplied by our cubic meter value. So whenever that mug is in a warehouse, you're paying for that space that is taken up, no void space around it. The void space you see around me right now, nobody's paying for that apart from me. And I take it upon myself to maximize our warehouses and only charge for the space our clients use. An example of the cost savings of what that can actually mean for someone. A client recently moved to our premises, and before then they advised they had 280 pallets of inventory. I did not believe they had actually 280 full pallets, but I made preparations to ensure we did have the space for them whenever they were coming on board. And actually when they come on board and move all their stock in, it amounted to 80 full pallets, not 280. Therefore they were being charged for these 280 pallets, but when they moved in, we saved them 4 figures a week on their warehousing fee. An incredible cost saving, and this was a small family business, not a large SME of any kind, very much so a micro and a small business, and saving them 4 figures a week was a huge benefit to them, and they've never been happier. Their operations are going really smoothly, and obviously accessing the entirety of the EU and UK from one site. So it's not only a strategic benefit working with us, we're leading the way in terms of actually coming up with solutions that make sense for us, but also the customer. Yes, it's a lot more work for us to work out the actual dimensions of every single SKU. We've over 70,000 SKUs across our warehouses, and we need to have measurements and weights for every single one of them. Our clients sometimes don't provide them, and we need to scan them to get that information. But we believe as a 3PL, we should be providing that benefit. That's why people outsource logistics and operations. So they have the freedom to grow. They have the freedom to excel in what they do in designing and selling and manufacturing. Whenever they send the goods to us, it should be simple, and we seek to simplify the entirety of fulfillment for them. As a CEO, I would classify myself as a visionary, and I've always had this vision of having a carbon neutral business. I've always loved that concept. I've always wanted to look after the planet that we've been blessed with. I'm really keen on that, and I want to make sure our business is leading the way in our industry, looking after what we've been given. And with that in mind, this year actually we employed a sustainability manager full-time, working alongside the University of Limerick as our knowledge transfer partner. We've been doing some amazing work this year to actually work out how we make that vision a reality. And we've set in place some key goals as we start to look into, okay, what ISO certification are we going for to make sure we can actually certify ourselves as being carbon neutral. When it comes to sustainability, Scope 1 and Scope 2 are essentially aspects of our business that we control. That's things like electricity or fuel or oil for a boiler, things that we actually control here on our site ourselves. If we actually reduce those emissions by 100%, essentially down to zero, that means we're actually carbon neutral as a business, and we can be certified to be carbon neutral when we do that. Scope 3 is our partners. That's people like UPS, FedEx, DHL, etc. that we contract in to do business with us and take our parcels out and deliver it. But what we do as a business is work with them to seek to actually reduce their emissions, use their green services and things like that. By 2030, we seek to reduce our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions by 90%. And our Scope 3, which is essentially all our third-party contractors, we're working really closely with them, our couriers, to look at how we reduce our emissions even more. What I want to achieve by 2030 is the ability to provide a service to clients that we can move a parcel across the entirety of the UK and Ireland carbon neutral. So our clients can actually say to their customers, their parcels are being moved from here, from A to B, carbon neutral. So that's really exciting. I have to be careful what I say on camera because my sustainability manager keeps me right in relation to, okay, what is actually a reality here? What can we actually, how can we make it come true? But definitely our goal is to become the most sustainable fulfilment centre in the whole of the UK and Ireland, and provide services around that to our clients. So our journey is going to be documented on our channels. It's going to be documented on our website. Our sustainability manager Sandra is going to be doing a lot of content around that, and already is working with our clients to provide services such as net zero packaging, doing audits on their operations with us. We seek to be able to give carbon accounting for our clients as well. Because we do all of their operations, we have all the data here to work out the carbon emissions for their business. So we can actually give that report to them as a service to say, here's where you're sitting at, here's what we can do together to reduce that. So it's actually a core part of who we are, what we offer, delivering fulfilment with a purpose. I believe that's where the industry's going. It's really part of who we are, our heart, our vision, our dream, to be that most sustainable fulfilment business in the entirety of UK and Ireland. And with an amazing partner here in-house, Sandra, our sustainability manager, we're looking to flesh that out and look at what we can bring to the entirety of the industry. Our vision here at SJ Henderson Fulfilment is to give businesses the freedom to grow. And that's not only true just for our clients that we do business with, but also true for our viewers and listeners. We want to give you the freedom to grow in your field, in your industry, and give you the knowledge that gives you what you need to excel in your industry or your context. Our content and our videos are going to be talking more about Brexit, that dual market access I've been chatting about across the whole of GB and Europe using Northern Ireland, sustainability and leading the way in sustainability and our journey on that. So we're really excited for all of the above. We're going to be having sit-down interviews with people in-house and also people outside of here, some key partners and people in those industries. So yeah, if you have found this content valuable, I really hope you have, please do subscribe and like the video. Share it also with people in your network or people who you may feel will find it beneficial as well. We look forward to documenting this journey and giving you the freedom to grow wherever you are.